talking about the pod generation, and with everything going on, it's really crazy. And but you weren't too far away from the future, I feel like, for the most part, everything we saw. So when did you even get started with the writing and what inspired you?
Well, the crazy thing is I had this first idea like 13 years ago when I was expecting my daughter and having all these strange dreams. And then I really started like maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I was serious about making it to a feature. But I've been playing around with this idea for a long time. So when ChatGPT came out, it was the week that the film premiered at Sundance. And I thought this is so strange because now the film became almost a documentary. You know, it took so long to make it. And so many ideas actually, I mean, that's the beauty of science fiction. Whatever you imagine at one point is going to happen and humanity is going to invent the technology, you know. So the artificial womb, we're not there yet, but I think soon. Yeah, it's the beauty of the genre, you know.
It really opens up the question with so many options for those when it comes to pregnancy. Um, is there such thing as a normal pregnancy?
No, I don't think so. I think every, pregnancy is its own journey. And but I was not interested to explore because this would be a different movie, and also it wouldn't be a satire. I mean, it's very sad that some couples cannot have children the way they want naturally, and they have to do in vitro fecundation, or they have to have surrogate mothers. And so I'm not exploring this because I'm not judging any of this, and this is, everyone's decision. I'm actually exploring a couple that could have. I think that's what's interesting philosophically. It's like a couple that could have a child naturally, but the mother decides to use the new technology, and so the question is why. Is she doing it because of peer pressure, because of society pressure, because of her employer, employee trying to tell her, if you want to keep productive and competitive, you better not have a child naturally and use the technology we're developing. So it was more interesting to explore this and what it means for a society that is actually pretending to be feminist and help women, but at the same time giving them the message that it's not very good idea to have children if you want to remain a competitive worker. So, it's based on a lot of things I've read actually happening in some corporation and in the Silicon Valley, where companies would give a down payment of $10,000 to help their female employee freeze their eggs. And so I was wondering, is this really a feminist approach? Or is it just telling the message like that, it's not a good time to have a baby, just postpone the decision and then we'll help you freeze your eggs and so you could be more productive.
Exactly. How did the creativity come when it came to the wound center?
Oh, to execute it. Well, I was lucky that I had this wonderful production designer, Clement Price Thomas, who he's a visionary and put a lot of effort into creating a world that is, we wanted to give aesthetic pleasure to the audience. It had to be beautiful and seductive and the kind of technology that you would want to have. It's almost a fetish. And so we were inspired by, the Apple stores where you go in now and there are trees. They're bringing biophilia into technology to make it look like it's a natural thing, but it's actually completely artificial. So we're exploring a lot of what the modern design is doing and trying to imagine a future in which I think the line between the digital and the organic is going to be blurred. So it's going to be difficult for the consumer to know if they're talking to a living thing or if it's an artificial thing. And I think most of the futuristic technology is going to be like very confusing for our eyes because we're wired to love and like things that are natural. When we're in nature, we're amazed by the beauty of plants. And so I think the technology is going to embrace this to make it more desirable. And so we were playing with a lot of these concepts and trying to research into the future and try to extrapolate what we know of humanity today to just try to envision what it could be in 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years. But it's a very relatable future. I think it's something that could happen pretty soon.
Really sad. There's this line, I think Elvis said it, that nature's seen as a commodity. and
Yeah.
emotionally starved. I love that because I was like, yeah, that's already happening.
I mean, that's what we've been doing for centuries, We've been commodifying and controlling nature since ever. We've decided that nature is ours and we're a superior species in the planet and we can use it and sell it and do what we want with it. I mean, you see it with the Amazon forest disappearing. We've decided we can just chop those trees and do whatever we want. But that happens to be the lung of the planet, so it's a bit of a problem. As long as we see ourselves, I think, as a superior species that can use nature as we wish, we're gonna be in trouble because now we see with climate change that we have no control on it. And one of my favorite philosophers said, in the 17th century, his name is Spinoza, and he said, the more we think we can control nature, the more nature reminds us that it's actually controlling us. And that's exactly what's happening today. We see it with all those fires and the floods and the tornadoes and the nature. The nature is more powerful and has its ways, and we should be humbled by the fact that we don't know much actually, and we can control that much.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always trying as a species to do it.
Now, one of my favorite parts was seeing the fertilization take place on screen, and it took me back. I remember when I was younger watching Look Who's Talking. I don't know if you remember that movie, but the beginning it was about the eggs and the whole sperm like getting into the egg and talking. So it kind of took me to that journey. I loved it.
Yeah, it's also inspired by this Woody Allen movie, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Never Asked. I don't know if you've seen it. It's so funny. There is a scene with um, those humans that are dressed as spermatozoid, and Woody Allen is there, and he doesn't want to jump. And it's like this whole existential crisis at the moment of conception. So I thought it was funny for them as a couple, Rachel and Alvy, to be the witness of something that should be completely like natural. I mean, it becomes like a theater of the absurd.
I loved Elvie's character. I think I would have been an Elvie.
Yeah, me too. I think I'll probably be more like I love like how nostalgic he is of an utopian, and he doesn't belong to that world at all. But the strange thing is that he flips around and he's more connected to the pod than Rachel. Maybe because he's more connected to himself. So for him, he sees more a baby inside that pod, and Rachel, she's stuck into just seeing the technology, and she can't see a baby through the technology. But yeah, I really love his character, and he's inspired by a botanist I met once in New York, who told me this story that he had all these students that were studying botany, and he took them to Italy they had like a workshop, and they wouldn't try figs from the tree because they thought it could be toxic because it was coming straight from nature, and they were used to figs from like the supermarket in those kind of little boxes. And I thought this was such a metaphor of our relationship to nature. So if it's commodified and it's sold, then it's fine, it's not toxic. But if it's directly from nature, we're not sure of like if we should interact with it or eat it or touch it. So definitely, his character was inspired a little bit by that conversation. And yeah. And Chiwetel is just wonderful in that role, I think.
Sophie, thank you for taking the time to talk about the pod generation, a generation that's right around the corner.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.